Well, here's the goal for this talk. We are going to step through what is new in Visual Studio 2015, and I have written this talk with a few guys in the office. In fact, lots of the guys had different opinions on what was cool. I couldn't include everything, but there is a hell of a lot in there. The last time I really did this talk was in 2013, so we'll go from Visual Studio 2013 to 2015. We'll include Azure, we'll include as much coolness as I can fit in this time. So how many people here are on 2013? Everyone. Who's installed 2015? Oh, only 3 hardcore guys. All right, cool. But by the end of this session, you'll all be chomping at the bit to get it. All right, so I'm going to quickly start with taking you on a trip down memory lane. Like that memory lane? Bit of graphic effect there. Before I do that, I'll just tell you about myself. I am the Chief Architect at SSW, and we're a solution provider in Neutral Bay. I am one of 2 Microsoft Regional Directors in Australia, and I am also an ALM MVP. So that's probably my proudest title, I think. I love working with the ALM team. They're extremely responsive, they're intelligent, they do everything via email. We haven't got them on Slack yet. But Brian Harry's really a good operator, and all the team members in there are pretty awesome. All right, my favourite stuff is Scrum, and I even teach my kids Scrum. We have the soccer team on Scrum. It's pretty awesome. The mums come up to me at half time, because at half time we do a retrospective with the kids, and they all have to say what was the best thing of the half and then what was the weakest part of the half. And they always say, I don't know how you get all these kids to talk so much. All right, this is my Scrum training. All right, so in 2002, if you think about what we had, we don't use any of it today. Bit sad, isn't it? No web forms, no XML web services, no Windows Forms. Oh, there's laughing. Is there Windows Forms here? Nope. No, just checking. All right. Okay, 2003. Well, we don't really use any of that except for that's when JetBrains ReSharper was around. Okay, who was using Visual Studio 2003 at some stage? Oh. Yeah, all right, it's all the old guys. Okay. 2005. 2005, we got a few things that we don't care about much of it, but we certainly care about generics. We care about that we got a local web server for the first time. We care that we got TFS. You know, it was a big step up in terms of working as a team, and a lot of those learnings went into other platforms that other people use. What are you guys using? Git? Yes. So you can use Git on TFS, or you can use Git outside TFS. But and what's the work item tracking system? Jira. Okay, cool. 2008, we got Link, which is pretty important. We got Link to SQL, which they probably shouldn't have released. We got MVC1, and that was more important than we expected. We got JavaScript IntelliSense. That'd be pretty hard to work without JavaScript IntelliSense. We got load testing, and that stuff has now been ported to Azure, and now we can smash our site nice and easy. How do you guys do your load testing? Geometer. So Java app. Oh, a Java app. Okay, all right. So we also got LinkPad as a third-party tool, which is awesome, pretty important. 2010, well, we got a few things. F#. Anyone care? No one? Okay. We got Quick Search, that was good. We got MVC 2 and 3, pretty important. And we got Test Manager. So that was kind of the first time we really had testers integrating with the developers instead of throwing PBI over the wall. Some of those items have been absorbed into other people's products as well. That whole getting testers and developers working together is improved a lot, and I guess the next part is DevOps. There's a lot of thinking around DevOps now, and that's kind of the next stage. 2012, if you think about it, everything in 2012 is cool and we still need today. We got, well, except for the modern UI when I think about it. That modern UI, the black and white, that really pissed a lot of developers off. But anyway, we've got our colours back. And the uppercase, that really annoyed people too. We got faster add references. We got NuGet. Wow, that was important. We got new Team Explorer. We got, so the new Team Explorer was the way that they kind of absorb, like there used to be a lot of dialogues popping up left, right and centre in Visual Studio, and they kind of removed a lot of those by using the new Team Explorer. We got storyboarding, we got Intellitrace in production, we got MVC 3 and 4, we got Page Inspector, debugging in Chrome, pretty hard to work now without debugging in Chrome. And with testing, we got exploratory testing. I always, you know how they say a picture is worth 1,000 words? I'm in a hell of a lot of meetings, and a lot of meetings you watch with developers. I often work with new teams, and I say a mock-up is worth 1,000 meetings. And a lot of the times you're talking with a product owner and they're already dysfunctional enough, and now you can see they're talking at cross purposes and they've got different ideas. I always say you've got to just pull open this thing, which most of them have never seen and they didn't even know was on their machine. You pull open storyboarding, it's in PowerPoint, and you just drag on what you're talking about, and then the product owner eventually will say, oh, I didn't realize you were talking like that, and you get into specifics. It's much more productive. If you don't want to use this, there's other things like Balsamic. It's on the web. I prefer this because when it's done, you can press F5. It's very easy to print because when he's agreed to what you've just talked about, because they get to a point where they just want to finish the meeting and they agree. So you say, all right, so is that about what you want? Yes. And so then you print it off and say, can you just initial this? Because, kind of team rules, that's how we work. Oh, and then they give you a few more changes. And that's kind of what you want, okay? 2013, we got visualstudio.com, TFS in the cloud essentially. We got Visual Studio Community, a free version. We got Git support. There's huge investments in Git support in Visual Studio. We got TypeScript. You guys using TypeScript? No, okay. We got, that's something to fix. I think that's a discussion we better have later on. Okay, we'll have that debate. And we got MVC 5, we got web APIs, we got browser link, Twitter Bootstrap good, and lots of other things. So, wouldn't it be nice if you could just save changes to a file in Visual Studio and have the browser automatically update? And I call this out because it's a nice thing, browser link. Anyone using browser link in the room? One person, all right. That's a shame. But browser link is using Signal R to push changes to connected browsers. It's essentially extremely good when you got to HTML and CSS changes. So you have multiple browsers set up, and then you will see something like this happen. So you just start making changes here, and see the two bottom ones on the bottom, you'd put those on separate monitors, and you'd have that flowing out so people would see that. All right, so all pretty cool. That's a nice way to work, especially near the end. All right, now wouldn't it be also really nice if you could make some of those changes in the browser and have them go back to your file system? So, it'd be awesome also to find unused CSS and work like that. Not all the time, but sometimes. Well, if you've got Web Essentials, and you've got this toolbar, and when you're over here, you can inspect the code. You can even find the Razor stuff. So you do this, and then you'll see where it is over here. Make changes. It makes changes over here. So obviously, you've only got one person here using that, but you've got you've got these changes here. If you look at closely at this, you can see serving from the file system above that box, and so you can map that, and then you can press save F12 and we'll go back. Anyone done that at all? No one? No. All right, not even the guy using browser link. Okay, so that's in the box. You've got that today for the right time. And finally, you also have this unused CSS. So on that toolbar, you click that button and it will pop open this where you have a look and you see what classes are unused and kill them. Okay? All right. So we've got DevTools. We've got it in Chrome, Firefox, IE. Who uses DevTools in Chrome? Everyone. Who uses in Firefox? Oh, a few. Who uses it in IE? Oh, 2. And they admit it. Okay. All right. So, I just wanted to call out to you one thing that I thought was cool. Sometimes you've got a lot of layers. I'm not sure if you're aware that you can get a view like that. Anyone seen that? All right. Do you find it useful? It's only a couple.
Debugging like really complicated Z-index issues.
Right.
It's useful for, but most of the time.
Okay. So every now and then, it's kind of good to have a look at a brand new site you haven't seen and see how deep it goes. Just if you want to do that, you click this button over here in the tools. This is a Firefox thing. And you come down here, you check on 3D view, and then you click on this other button over on the right-hand side, and then you'll get this 3D view. And I think it's kind of, well, it looks intelligent anyway, okay? If your manager asks you what you're doing, just always have a screen capture of this hidden away on an email, just debugging this site. All right, you can kind of spin it around. It looks, it looks pretty cool. Okay, so let's talk about what's new in 2014. So that was 2013. Now, there was lots of updates that came out. Are you guys on the update train? So every update that comes out, you're taking it? So who's on 2013.4? A couple. Who's on point 3? No one. Point 2? Point 1? Who's on RTM 2013? Who doesn't know what version they're on? Everyone. All right. Okay. All right. Well, that's unusual. I'm always excited to get an update. I've just bought a Tesla, and you have no idea. I was late to a meeting just because I wanted to get the software update, but it takes like more than an hour to get the software update. But it's just so exciting getting a new update for your car. I just can't believe it. It's really stupid. So now I've got this new detection on my car. So if you are not going to brake, it alerts you. So of course I'm trying to test it out all the time because I want the alarm to go off, but I scare my kids. All right, so anyway, so update 1 didn't give you much. Update 2 gave you a whole lot of testing stuff. You got lots of Git stuff because that's their focus. We got nice charts on the project portal, and we got work item tagging. So we also got here in update 3 lots of stuff with CodeLens. So CodeLens, anybody using CodeLens? Does anyone have Ultimate? Who's got Ultimate? No one. You've got to speak to Fabian. All right. Yeah, tell him you need Ultimate so that you can have this awesome feature. But so you can hover over, a method and see the history, who's been working on it. You can click on the commit, go back to TFS and see the work item change or the comments. We got App Insights built in. Are you guys using App Insights at all? Nope. Okay. Are you using New Relic? Yes. New Relic. Okay, got it. So we got Cordova in update 3. Cordova allows you to do web-based stuff. Oh, sorry, hybrid-based mobile apps. Okay. And update 4 gave us a whole lot of nice testing stuff to see which PBIs had been tested and at which state they were in. Okay. And I better turn Skype off. I do not know who Total Queen is, don't worry. I'm sure she's nice. Oh, is it? Okay. So on visualstudio.com, are you guys using visualstudio.com at all? Not using it at all. All right. So I will flick past that, but there are plenty of cool things on visualstudio.com, but I think if you're not using it, it's probably not worth seeing it. I will jump straight into what's new in Visual Studio 2015. So let's walk through what's new in this. So the biggest user gripe has been solved. Okay. Does anyone have a clue what it is?
Vim key bindings.
Vim key bindings, no. Not number 1. So you know we all have 10 votes on user voice. So you know I always want way more than 10 votes, and I've said, look, MVP should get more than 10 votes because I've got way more than 10 things to complain about. But can you guys guess what you guys have used all your votes up on? The uppercase menus, you're right. So I can't believe this, but when I saw the stats, 3,000 votes were used up on this as number one. And then I found another one that has essentially the same thing, another 2,000 votes. And all about this. It seemed like a terrible waste of votes, but anyway. Anyway, you got that solved. Is that exciting? There's a reason to upgrade. Okay. So let's talk about 10 new developer goodies in. So I'm going to talk about Roslyn, new language operators, refactoring, code lens, smart unit test blend, Windows 10, shared projects, and Intellitrace. All right? Cool. So let's go through that. Roslyn. To a degree, Roslyn is probably the biggest improvement in, you probably won't even care, but it's underlying the whole thing. It's the biggest thing you probably should care about the most. It is the new compiler. Who's kind of familiar with what Roslyn is? Okay, 4. Okay, so I'll walk through it, but essentially it's the new compiler as a service underneath. It's how you don't need to build anymore because it automatically happens for you. It allows you to write plugins, and I think, you know, at the moment we have ReSharper, and ReSharper's awesome, but they had to build a whole lot of plumbing for that to work, a hell of a lot of plumbing, and I'm sure a lot of it was pretty fragile. But they've got it right over the years. But when you want tools inside Visual Studio, you will be able to build these things yourself now, you know, all refactoring type tools. And at SSW, we have a tool that does that, and we've had it for many years, called SSW Code Auditor. And it's a tool that looks over your code and kind of makes some of the rules that we have in our company about that. So it's very, very fast, and it's, I guess, if you're still not convinced, it was done by Anders Hallsberg. Okay? So Anders Hallsberg, Mr. C#, Mr. Delphi, you know, Mr. Link, he's done all the cool stuff. All right. All right, so if you remember that I just showed you before the tool called Code Lens that was in the Ultimate, that is done on Roslyn. So our tool, Code Auditor, gives us a hell of a lot of pain. And the reason it gives us a lot of pain, there's a whole series of screenshots from it, but it gives us a lot of pain because of the rules. The rules themselves are written in are written in regexes. Now, I don't know if you've ever dealt with regexes or long regexes, but I know they give developers a headache. And in fact, in our company, there's only a few guys who are really strong at, you know, pretty nasty regexes. And, you know, we got like 40 guys, and there's only a few that we can rely on for really hardcore regexes. So the problem is they're very fragile, and this product gave us a lot of pain because of that. So we have started moving most of the rules from regexes to Roslyn. And I'm sure you guys will think up things that you potentially in-house need based on, you know, Roslyn. I think you'll, even if you don't, I expect there'll be other tools that start coming out like ReSharper, which are a fraction of the cost to build, that potentially do things better. Because I think ReSharper did a blog post on this because people were saying, oh, you're going to migrate everything to, you know, to Roslyn, and they said, nah, too big an investment. Okay. But they might change their mind one day. All right. So anyway, you can see these rules move into Roslyn. Okay. And I won't go through it, but there is a video there on the guy that runs Code Auditor, and he shows how he's written a lot of the rules in Roslyn. So it's a good Roslyn thing because there's a lot of UI they've given you, and there's a lot of debugging support. I'll show you a tiny bit. They've got this syntax visualizer. So when you look at this, you can click on Roslyn syntax visualizer, and it will basically turn a line of turn the selection that you have into a syntax tree. So if you look at the line that's selected at the top, which is the very top one, see, using, space, system, semicolon. Now that is broken up into a using keyword, a white space trail, an identifier name, and a semicolon token. And that's kind of the most simple way of looking at it. But there is also this DGML graph at the bottom. And the DGML graph also is kind of useful when you start trying to work out what the code is doing. And he talks about that in his videos, so you can have a look at that. All right, so anyway, the pros and cons of Roslyn. I think it's all mainly pros, but it's a parser and Lexa. It's way more accurate, it's very fast, and you can use it in your own little standalone products. Okay, so I envisage, you know, like, I don't know if this is for sure, but you know, like tools like reporting services, how you can go in and make a little expression, or you can make kind of little functions. That is, they just give you a nasty text box, really. That type of thing can be extended by using Roslyn. They could do that today if they wanted to. All right, still in beta, not for long. Okay, and I would love to see something like this for HTML and JavaScript.
There's already abstract syntax tree passes for JavaScript.
Right,
So
okay.
I guess you could write a plugin for Visual Studio that gives it to you.
Okay, cool. Okay, so there's not much documentation out there. That's the other bad thing. All right, and if you see how this works, you'll see that you can go to NuGet and get their most current version. They also put their nightly builds out on MyGet. So why would they put their nightly builds out here? Why don't they just put it here? I don't know. I don't know the answer, but I assume it's because they don't want to pollute NuGet. NuGet is like the stable build, and they want to use MyGet for people that are on the cutting edge, I'm assuming. Okay? But it's just nice to think about that because we can do the same type of thing. All right, so use MyGet not to pollute your NuGet feed. All right. So who thinks Roslyn is pretty awesome? Who doesn't care? It's just plumbing. Yeah, all right. Okay. So new language operators. Here is one, which I think is kind of cool. We have this, which is question mark dot, and this is a null propagating operator. So if you have code like this, say if you're checking if null, oh, that is not, oh, is it? Fine. All right, so let me just tell you, it says if A not null, then dispose it. Okay, and you write this type of code all the time, and now you can write like this. So you could have something like this, where you're basically just doing a check if it's null, if not, then invoke it. Or you can just write it like that. So it's a tiny bit less. Who likes this and would use it? Wow, almost everyone. Who doesn't care for it and likes it being clearer? Your way. Okay, all right. Fabian, are you the VB programmer? Are you French? That would explain it all. All right. So, what's wrong with this code? Because I thought it was interesting when I first showed one of the devs about that, he goes, is that thread safe? And I hadn't really thought of that. But if you look at something like this, is that thread safe? So it turns out that this is thread safe, and what you needed to do was basically you were meant to always do a null check before. But you could write code before that was not thread safe. But now if you use that operator, not only is it shorter code, it's now thread safe. Are you sold now? You want to use it because it gives you extra checking? Sure. All right, he's sold. All right. He's easy to sell. All right. All right. So now it's thread safe if you just do it like that. All right. So instead of like that, you can get it all done like that. There you go. There's one recent upgrade. All right. All right. Other language features from Roslyn. Now, I was looking at this through the beta, We had auto property initializers, declaration expressions, and, sorry, what was the third one? Primary constructors. So let's just look at these. Auto property initializers. So if you look at this code, you can see that we basically have a constructor just to set a default. Okay, that code's okay. Who would like to write like that? Oh, that says equal 5 on the right-hand side. Who prefers this more compact way of writing it? Oh, everyone. Who thinks it's not as clear? All right, yeah. So it's almost 50-50, yeah. So it's not for everyone. Some people like, but I think it might be a fact of getting used to it. You know, what happens, you know. I'll show you this other one, which is declaration expressions. So here you can have this where you basically set up each one, or you could put it all in one line where you've got the whole thing out in one line. I am not sure that's clearer or ambiguous. How many people like that and would use it? 1, 2. How many people would not use that? Most of the room, 8% of the room. Okay. All right. So what Microsoft, I thought that a lot of people would like it, shorter, but Microsoft did get a lot of feedback that it wasn't super popular, not everyone would use it. Anyway, it's not in this version. And it's not, so you don't have to worry. But I guess I've left it there because the only reason it's not in this version is it wasn't popular, and not because they're not putting it in. So, you know, Microsoft, believe it or not, have resource limitations, just like all of us, and they were doing all the, you know, there's bugs to fix and other things to do. So they, since not everybody wanted it, they just put it down the backlog order, and it didn't make the cut, so it won't be in there. Primary constructors. What about this one? But we'll probably get it in an update. That's highly likely. I'm not saying for sure, but I expect you'll see this in update, so I'm telling you anyway. So primary constructors, in 2013, we had stuff like this where we have a constructor here, and we have these guys. Now, you'll be able to do this all in one line. So that's equals X, and that's equals Y, okay? It's less code. How many people like that and would use that in their code? Oh, 4, 5, 6. Who wouldn't use that? All right, 4, okay. All right, no worries. You don't have to worry anyway because it's not in there, okay. But it will probably come very shortly. But I'm surprised that that's more popular than the other one. All right, anyway, there's heaps of these. So I've only just showed you a couple. If you click on this, if you go to this link, you'll see a whole list of all the ones they're doing. They're showing which ones are going to make it, which ones are planned. You know, so it's really clear how they're doing this type of stuff. Also, this is one I'm hoping that's on the list, and I'm hoping that will make it just a nice way to do your strings. That would be much nicer to do it like that. All right. Can you see if there's a new GitHub link on that? Okay. So anyway, if you look at all this, you'll be able to write less. You'll be able to do more with less code. So they say that you can write with less than 50% less code now. So you'll be 50% more efficient, and now we'll be asked to ship 50% faster.
50% pay rise.
Yeah, 50% pay rise. I'm with you. All right, cool. So the best language features, I only found this out recently because, you know, I'm always told that I'm a .NET guy, so I don't know heaps about what's happening in the Java world other than Java's magical and much better. But to me, it looks pretty similar, but we only do .NET jobs in our company. In 2008, we got Link. Did you know that the Java guys only got Link in 2014 in Java 8? I never knew that. I assumed that they must have got it like 10 years before us. And I found it incredible. But anyway, we've always had this. Expression cannot contain lambda expressions. And I expect you to see on all the marketing materials, you can now debug Lambda, and you'll see this. Oh, wow. I call that a bug fix, but I'm glad you were so excited. All right. Okay. All right, now if you want any of those features, you can use them today in Visual Studio 2013. Or it's all open source, so you can just take it. The only thing you have to do is put in language version experimental. Now, of course, when everything blows up and they do a root cause analysis and found out what caused this, and then they find out you went and put that line there, you'll probably be in a lot of trouble because it doesn't sound very good. Didn't you understand what that meant? But anyway, you can. All right. You now have, well, you can select the language version that you want to target in your build advanced settings. So you just go build advanced and choose which one. You will also see lots more refactoring, lots more light bulbs all over the place. I think it's amazing how Microsoft can come up with these ideas, like put light bulbs around the place and you can click on them and get help. Isn't it incredible? Yes. I'm sure the ReSharper guys go, what? Anyway. Anyway, so you can click on this and extract the method. So, is it ReSharper or Visual Studio? You won't be able to tell anymore. Now, I'm not sure, because our guys use ReSharper, but I'm not sure if you're going to get two of these popping up. That would be interesting. You get two light bulbs everywhere. You know, but maybe one disables the other or one extends upon the other. I'm sure Microsoft have done it the right way. Anyway, so you've got this. You know what I love about this? I just love the idea that Microsoft are now getting the idea before they make a change, they show you what you're going to do. Like, you know, in the old days with Windows Forms, Fabian will remember this, in Windows Forms, where you drag on some control and like references got added and files got added here and you never knew what happened, okay? Did you care? Did you ever get upset? No. Well, I used to get really upset because I never knew what it just did. But this shows you exactly what's about to happen before you did it. It just works, yeah. Fabian trusts everyone. Okay. Okay. All right. So you get a preview of this. All right. So more, you get more of these. They're all over the joint. You get these light bulbs everywhere showing you things. So I've just got a few captures in here. One thing I thought was, one of the guys in our office, Eric, he actually just likes plain text editors. I was trying to work out what is different. I'm reading it, it looks the same code. Can you see what's different? So he had to actually point it out to me what he was talking about. He goes, I love this. And all he's talking about is he loves the icons and the blue. It's pretty, I find it surprising he cared about that. But yeah, that's all over the joint now, so it just feels richer. That is not in any marketing materials that Microsoft have. So there you go. Anyway, more of it. There's another example. So lots of, it just feels richer. It's hard to tell. This CodeLens stuff is pretty awesome. You can look at a method and see what is going on with this method. How many changes are being made? What's going on? So do you like that idea of looking on a method and seeing history and it looks through source control and sees stuff? Yeah?
If it's fast enough.
If it's fast. It's fast. It's based on Roslyn. Everything's fast. Okay. So that is on TFS. That screen capture I took was on Team Foundation version control. Do you think that works with Git? Knowing Microsoft? Who expects that to work with Git? Who doesn't expect? A few. 90% of the room expect it does work. Well, it does. That's good. Okay, so projects you download from GitHub, yes, it does. It basically, you've got all the history there anyway, so it just uses that. Impediments with unit tests. So sometimes you come across projects that don't have many unit tests in it, okay? Especially, you know, VB guys, okay? they've turned into C# programmers by default. And sometimes it's really hard to get a whole lot of, get the code solid. And there's also this other thing. We're all looking to improve our maturity, right? We're all looking for ways to make the teams work better. We're looking for ways to do automated testing. You guys have a definition of done? Yes, some do. Yes? Do you want to tell me something important in your definition of done, Fabian?
Ready to go live.
Well, your definition of done goes live?
Well, it's live or in the next release, yeah.
Live or in the next release?
It's on the train.
Right, it's on the train. Okay. So each PBI that you complete is tested and in production. Or ready to be in production after testing.
Well, not tested.
It's tested.
It's not ready to go unless it's tested.
Right, but is the definition of done, has it already been tested? What does the actual definition of done say?
It's different per team.
Different per team. How many teams do we have in the room?
Probably about 5 or 6.
5 or 6? Okay. Who has their PBIs go into production as the definition of done? Okay. Oh, that's impressive. Okay. What's something else important in your definition of done?
Code reviews.
Code reviews. Are they like over-the-shoulder code reviews? Someone comes and has a look?
For our team, pull requests.
Sorry?
For our team, it's pull requests.
Pull requests, okay. And so someone just looks at it at their machine and merges it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Cool. It's really difficult to measure code quality, and a lot of teams go just for code coverage. That's a simple one. You guys got high code coverage? 10%, 20%, 30%?
Unit testing.
Yeah, unit testing.
I don't think code coverage is a good metric.
You don't think code coverage is a good metric? Is it?
Branch coverage is a better metric.
Branch coverage, okay. All right, cool. And anybody else? Anything important in your definition of done? Because this is a really common one about code coverage. But when you want to measure test quality, it's also the number of assertions are important. And are you just testing the happy path and the edge cases, or versus the edge cases? There was a thread. I'm a Microsoft ALM MVP, and so there was a thread on the alias where one of the MVPs told Brian Harry, the boss, I would like you guys to invest a lot more in unit testing tools. I want stuff like NCrunch in there. I want all this, etc. And other people said, yes, yes, +1, more unit testing, love. And he said, I probably won't be investing heaps more in that area for this release. I've got more focus on the debugger tools and things. I think that's more important. And then he made a little statement which I thought was interesting. He says, one of the things I like the team doing in their definition of done is they've actually, after they've done the code, they've stepped through the code themselves. And they've stepped through it, talking through what's about to happen. Because he said, you have no idea the amount of times a developer's written the code, tested it, etc. And now you get them to enter some values or pass some stuff through, and you put a breakpoint and you get them to walk through what it's about to do. And it doesn't go where they thought it would go. They'd already tested it, it seemed to work, but the stepping through doesn't take them where they thought it would take them. So he says that's a really important thing to do. I don't think you could test all paths, but it's an interesting exercise. Anyway, I mentioned this because we now have this thing called smart unit tests. And I think it's about to get another name, I hope, because I'm not sure they're smart. They're just auto-generated, okay? There is talk that it will be called Intelli unit test or something like that, okay? So what it does is it will go through just like PEX, which came out of Microsoft Research. And the good stuff is it increases your code coverage, your number of assertions, and just goes through the whole thing. So let's just see what it generates. So if you look at code like that, what is the problem there? Fabian, can you see a problem there? Apart from the director earning too much money, what is a problem?
No defaults in your spreadsheet.
Defaults, yes. Defaults? Yeah, it doesn't have to have a default. So what about, well, let's see what happens here. So you right-click on that and you go Smart Unit Tests. Click that, and down here you'll get a red. You go, what? A null reference exception. So then you'll go back, you'll fix up the code to check, and now you'll get all green at the bottom. Okay? Gee, imagine running this all over. Imagine you were rewarded for high code coverage. You could do some magic with this tool, but don't tell your managers that you're using this tool. Okay. So hopefully they'll change it from Smart Unit Tests to give it a better name. All right. Who thinks that's an awesome feature that they would use? Half. Who wouldn't use that feature? One purist. Oh, you don't use Visual Studio? Oh, all right. What do you use?
Vim.
Vim. What are you doing here? Who invited you?
I came to see what features I could steal from my Vim.
He wants this in Vim. Are you feeling jealous?
Not yet.
Not yet. Right, okay.
Some cool stuff.
Right, okay.
See, keep going.
He's yet to be impressed. All right, I could open up Notepad. We have Notepad, you know. We all .NET developers can open Notepad if they want. We choose not to. Yeah. We like being efficient. All right. So, smart unit tests are not an excuse to write unit tests. I just thought I'd put it in there because I saw some devs and they go, oh, wow, gee, we've got an automated tool to write unit tests now. Yeah, that's not the point. All right. So, I just might open up Blend because this is another, it's not a big thing, but I'll just mention Visual Studio Blend. But Blend is a tool for, well, it's essentially for designers. And if you think about 2013, it lost a fair bit of traction. And we can come in here and we can go new project. But when you're doing a tool such as this, when you think about what you're getting, when you create a project, you're like in Blend and doing XAML stuff, you're going to be targeting a Windows Phone and a Windows Store, right? And you could actually, so I'll just, you can choose, well, you wouldn't choose Silverlight, but you can come in here and you can choose a Windows 8 and you can actually target whether you want Windows or Windows Phone or a universal app which targets both. But who really wants to create something that just works on the Windows Phone and the Windows, what do you call them, Metro apps or Windows apps? It hasn't really got much traction, has it? But I expect this story to potentially get much better. And if you think about it, what Microsoft are doing now with Windows 10 is they will make that so when you build that, you're building it for the Xbox as well. So you're building for 3. And you're building for the Surface Hub, which is the Surface on the wall thing they're releasing. And you're building for HoloLens. And you're building for, well, obviously you've already got Windows Phone and Windows Store, but you'll also have the Android and iOS connectors. So when you're building that and you're targeting 8 different platforms, that's a lot. You know, obviously it's going to be hard to test all those different things, but you are now building once and potentially deploying out apps to a lot of different platforms. I don't know. When I think about it, I think it's a kind of a compelling story. Not right today, but you know, if Microsoft made some big announcement that they're going to get 1 billion installations of Windows 10, right? Is that what they said? Yeah. So I don't know. I think that story is looking promising, more promising than it was before. Okay, and obviously they've got a big range of tablets, and we saw the HoloLens. Did anyone see that one from Google? Google Cardboard, was it? Anyone see the Google Cardboard thing?
Yeah, with the phone inside.
Yeah, the little phone. Yeah. So I don't get how that competes with anything like this. And I guess maybe there's a big market for cheap there in the world. There is a big market, and maybe that's. But I guess I look at it from, a first world perspective, which is probably the wrong perspective. But the offering here is really solid, and the offering from Google and something similar was pretty bad. Anyway, so I have a feeling Windows 10 will be pretty huge, and I'll give you my reasons. First of all, you can share code everywhere, like I've just explained. It's a free upgrade, which I'm surprised would come out of Microsoft. They're saying for the first 12 months, but who knows what would happen after that. It's going to run on lots of devices, including Raspberry Pi. I think that's a pretty exciting story. That's super cool coming from Microsoft. We can now develop solutions for many different targets, such as Xbox One. We got the augmented reality headset. We got Cortana in it, and we got a lightweight browser. Okay, and all these type of things have happened since Steve Ballmer left. So it's been a short ride, but there's a lot of stuff going on. All right. Any comments on that before I move on from Windows 10? I'm running Windows 10. You can see it runs PowerPoint. Oh yes. So any questions on Windows 10? Who is keen on running Windows 10? Most. Oh, everyone. All right, cool. Okay, let's hope it's stable, hey? All right. So you'll have a lot of comments about shared projects and PC versus portable class libraries. How many people are familiar with portable class libraries here? Okay, a third of the room. Okay, I thought a few more of you would. How many people are familiar with shared projects? Hardly anyone. Okay, all right. Okay, well, I'll just go through this fairly quickly. Portable class libraries are basically the minimum set of functionality you choose for your app. And shared projects are basically you pull the code in, okay? And the history, for 10 years for different platforms, Microsoft developers just copied and pasted for different platforms. So if you're running Windows Mobile 6 and Windows Forms, you would need to copy and paste. In Visual Studio 2010, Service Pack 1, that we got PCLs, portable class libraries. They shared the DLL, but we couldn't make any, if we wanted to click a button on a specific piece of hardware, we were locked out of that. So in 2013, we got PCLs in Windows 8.1, and then we got these things called shared projects only in Update 2. And this was really to target Windows Phone, and it was very useful for XAML apps. All right, so anyway, long story short, you can share code with NuGet packages with portable class libraries, but it's not platform specific. Shared projects, you can make it platform specific with these hash if statements. The problem is, if you look at something like that, at least we can click that specific hardware button, but it doesn't take long before it's not very maintainable, does it? It looks pretty ugly. Anyway, 2015, they've got shared projects for all projects. And you've got portable class libraries, so you'll probably end up in this discussion, should we use them, should we not, for special circumstances. Maybe people get familiar with shared projects and start using them a lot because they seem nice and easy. I would probably tell you that you should just keep using portable class libraries and ignore shared projects until you have a specific need for it. But by default, don't use them, just in case you need them. All right, so Windows 10 basically has a write and compile once, run anywhere, so that sounds like it's going to be even more solid. All right, I want to talk to you about finding slow code. So tools like this give you some type of insight into what's going on. This is an interesting new feature called PerfTips. And so it tells you how long the program's been running per step. So if you look here, as you're stepping through the code, you now get this. You don't get this in Vim, do you? Look at that. I've got a red circle, a red box. That just tells me that method, that call is slow. Now that's pretty impressive, right? So as you're developing and stepping through code, you know which are the expensive calls and which are not. Okay? Are you jealous now? No. No. It wouldn't matter. He's a hard sell, this guy. All right.
It's been 10 years learning Vim. It's going to be a hard sell.
Right, okay. You know, I did an accounting degree, and one of the first things they teach us is never make decisions on sunk costs. Yeah. Yes.
That's a very good point.
Yes. So get off that Vim and get onto Visual Studio, and you'll be a happy man. All right. So now we can click on this, and we'll see what's going on. And so I'll show you this. So this kind of feature leads into Intellitrace. And Intellitrace, for me, was always a magical type of idea. It's very easy for a tester to report a dodgy bug, right? And something that's very hard to reproduce. How many people have ever used an iTrace file? No one. No one's used an iTrace file. Okay, all right. Hey, everybody stand up. Everyone, you don't have to, but stand up. Because I want you to remember this feature that I'm going to show. I don't want you to be half asleep. So just do a little stretch to the left and to the right. Because if you only remember one thing, I want you to remember the next thing I'm going to show you. All right, you can sit down. So, this Intellitrace is this thing called an iTrace file, which we've had for a fair while. And maybe because you guys don't use Test Manager at all and you're not familiar with it, but you can have it so testers, when they report a bug, it comes with an iTrace file, and you can double click on that, open it up, and it takes you to the line of code that broke while they were testing. So it eliminates the problem of a non-reproducible bug, because you don't even have to find the bug yourself. When you open it up, all the variables are set as they were when the user used it. You don't even have to go through any of that repro stuff. So it's good, but it's never really got there. And it's, as you can see, it's not even mainstream. Nobody cares. And it's kind of, it's a premium feature, I think. I'm not sure, but I think it is. Anyway, don't get overexcited, but get excited about what I'm going to show you. If you look at Intellitrace, you see this Google search. Intellitrace slow, 6 million results. It does slow down your environment, and the tip with it is turn it off. Okay? In fact, I've given this tip to many people as well on dodgy machines. But in Intellitrace in 2015, you don't notice any performance overhead now. In addition, you get stats while debugging. So while you're debugging, not only that counter with the amount of time, you can see this thing over on the right-hand side. So I don't know if you ever saw Intellitrace before, because it's on by default. You just got a grid on the right with a list of stuff, and it was kind of useless. You could step back in time, so it was like historical debugging. You could go backwards. But check this out. I'm looking through here, and I'll just zoom in a bit. We can look at this line. We can already see it's slow. We can see this stuff over on the right. So we can see, well, CPU doesn't seem to be a problem. Whatever's going on, it's not CPU. There's something going wrong with memory. There's a few little events going on here. So we click in, we just zoom in here, and you can see that there's certain events going on here. You can now use this timeline at the top to select an area. I'm not sure it's the nicest UI for selecting time, but this time thing is getting in lots of UIs now, where you can select a time that you want. So you choose a range here, and you know the output statements. You can hover over this and see the output statements. So you don't even have to go to the output window to see what's going on. And we can see what's going on. So first of all, we were told it was a slow call, and now we can look in here to try work out what it is, and it's memory, and then it could be lots of things. It could be security errors, whatever. So who thinks that is an awesome feature? Who wouldn't use that feature? Doesn't need it? Yeah, that's everyone in the room. Okay. We're not counting you anymore. All right. Mobile development. So mobile development is pretty important. I might just check how much time do I have? So we've got till 5, don't we? Yes. So mobile development. That's a big new world. And how many people here are thinking about thinking or working in the space of mobile?
Do you mean native apps or?
Making sure it works on iPhones, native, hybrid, any like mobile considerations. So a few. Okay, who doesn't care about what's going on with mobile? Nobody? Oh, okay, so everyone cares about it. And what is the general approach at the moment? Are you writing native apps or hybrid apps or just using responsive design?
Both. We have native apps, iOS, Android, wearables, native apps as well, and a mobile site.
So native and not hybrid, is that the general approach?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I will show you just the other world just so you've seen a quick look at it. But with mobile development, we had Steve Ballmer, and he was always saying, developers, 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 developers. And now we've got Satya, and he says mobile first, mobile first, mobile first, cloud first, all right? So what mobile options do we have now? Now this is pretty important. We've got native, hybrid, and cross-compilers. So hybrid is essentially using your, say, Angular skills and building an app without having to learn anything more, really, apart from just the initial framework. And then you've got cross-compilers, like Xamarin, and Xamarin save you from learning iOS, learning the whole iOS development environment and the language, and learning Windows Phone and learning Android. So rather than learn all those things, because it is common in lots of larger companies that they have 3 teams developing 3 different things. And when you have 3 teams, it's very easy to have developers misinterpret what's going on. And so you're basically, even though you're giving the same business rules out, the apps come back slightly different, because they've been misinterpreted. And that's kind of the problem. And that's kind of the dream of why Xamarin is awesome, because it will potentially save that problem of learning multiple things and having multiple teams. So I'm just going to, I'll just open up Visual Studio. And I'll show you just getting up and running if you're going hybrid. And it's as simple as going File, New, Project. And you'll come down here and you choose your template, and it's actually under TypeScript. Okay? And then you choose blank app. I will type domain, and I'll go OK. And it will go off, and it will create a blank application. Then you'll see the files, the directories. I've got my resources there, my scripts here, this www root folder, which is a new one, and we'll come back to that. And there isn't much other than get to know there's plugins, watch this video, and you get nice IntelliSense, and you can use all your Angular skills, and run it on an emulator and see what it's like, and you're good to go, and start debugging. So if I was to just click on this guy, that's the default experience, that will open up an emulator, and it will show you what a blank project looks like. Now let's just say I want to see a better, what that looks like that's better than that. So here it is, and this, where did he go? There he is. So that's my Ripple emulator. Now what you should probably do is, with Visual Studio, we get a new Android emulator, so you could use that as well. Okay, but that's out of the box, you can see that. You can see that we could find device settings. So let's just say I wanted to know what's involved in just having a very simple data entry form. So I'll just close this, and I'll just show you. The first thing they just want you to be aware of, apart from these folders, is you've got this config XML, nice and simple. So double click on that, and it comes up with this. And over on the left here, I can click on plugins. And if I look here, it will tell me, I'll just, hide that. And these are, thousands of plugins. And then I can look at which ones are installed. And there are none. So I'd need to come back and add a few. So I'll go off and I'll just open Chrome. And if you were, oh, there's SMH. Just check that your site's running. Okay, cool. And I love SMH. It's awesome. It is really, you guys have done a great job. So if I am after, say, samples, Microsoft, I think there should be way more Microsoft news on SMH. I think that's something you should fix. Sample Microsoft Cordova.
The tech editors.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, I should type GitHub. Anyway, so you come here and you'll see there's samples here. And you'll grab these samples from GitHub. Now, one of the things you'll notice, check this out. Does anyone notice anything unusual here? Nothing? Isn't there an unusual button you wouldn't have seen before? Huh? Yeah, open in Visual Studio. Do you see open in Vim? No. I don't. So it automatically opens Visual Studio and plonks the code in. So you can just take that and then open it up. And I'll just close this solution just to do this quickly. And I'll take the, they give you, oh, can't find that. Oh, yes, I'll remove that reference. Oh, God. Let me just open it up manually. It'll be in my folder here because I downloaded it before. Cordova samples. I'll go into the AngularJS one, and that's the solution. So I haven't written any of this code. I'm just opening that sample that's there. And I'll just see what's involved in this, in the sample that they give me. So we'll come into here. And we'll have a look. This is the other sample. Okay. So I'll just come back to the emulator. And Fabian. So I press enter. And it puts the address. It's pretty clever. What's your name? Mr. Vim?
Jess, J-E-S-S.
Jess. Okay. So I've got that. And I can click that and delete him. Okay. It's gone. So that's like a sample app. So now you can look through this and you could have a look and say, hey, it's just my Angular skills. We could look at this config XML and see what modules were used here. I'll just so the plugins, we'll have a look at what's installed. But out of the box, they just used 2 for that project. One for the geolocation. Did you notice when we typed in Jess, it put the location, and mobile services. So that's kind of the Cordova world. That's an intro to that. Super quick intro. All right. So there's lots of mobile options. I've just gone ahead and showed you that hybrid, but let's just talk through it. So Cordova is write shared code in HTML and JavaScript. It compiles into a hybrid app on your Windows phone, Android and iOS. It came out in update 2013. You need update 3. That said, if you want to use that stuff, Microsoft is saying use 2015 because they've updated it, and you check this thing on in the install, HTML, JavaScript, or Cordova. All right, so this is how you open it, or this is how you should open it. You should click Mobile Hybrid App, and I'm just telling you this because that's what people will. They ask me later, where is that project that you did? There's no mobile projects. So where do you go? Where do you go to create this? Mobile hybrid? Does anyone remember? See, nobody remembers. It's under, not mobile. This is a mock-up I did. It's under TypeScript, Apache Cordova. I don't know. It's not the easiest place to look for a hybrid app, because I guess it doesn't say hybrid app anywhere. That would be helpful. Anyway, so, and you're in a TypeScript world here, okay? A TypeScript world is a cool world, okay? And then you just need to do all your testing, so you could choose, say, Android, and then over here you choose all the different emulators, and then you choose Windows Phone, emulators, and then choose iPhone and all the emulators. I will warn you, because we've done some mobile projects, and the early projects we did, during the sprint reviews, we were always using the emulators. The emulators are not good enough for sprint reviews, if you ask me, because to go from that to production is too many bugs. There's too many. The emulators aren't good enough. You've got to be testing on devices from sprint 1. Okay. All right, and that's the Ripple thing. All right, and I told you about this. I told you, oh yes, if you can just take that GitHub extension for Visual Studio, that little guy, which you might not think you need, but or if you don't want to take it from there, you can just grab it today like this. It's an extension. And then you'll get this in your menu, in your Team Explorer, plus you'll get that cool little button that we saw before. Open a Visual Studio. Okay? Great. So I showed you about that. I showed that they have config.xml, and you can look at your extensions there. Take those, add that, and it ends up. So Cordova, if you want to test it out, you just go and clone the samples, open the AngularJS sample, run the application, and see the plugins, and start. You can add the Bing key for that to work the way I just did it. All right, how do you tell if you're in a hybrid app or a native app? Because I get this question from clients a lot. They want to know, is it worth doing native or hybrid, because hybrid's kind of cheaper, especially in the beginning. So how do you tell the difference? Like when you open up an app, how do you see the difference? Nobody knows? All right. I would tell you when it's sucky and clunky. Okay? It's hard to kind of tell, but you can tell. If they're not using the native UI elements, so Gmail, when you swipe to delete, the style is really pretty different, but some people go to a lot of effort to make it almost the same, so it's kind of even harder to tell. So I will always tell you that native is probably better if it's a pay now or pay later thing, I guess. I think I lean towards native, even though it's a hard decision for clients. Okay, so spot the hybrid app. You can see that's the Banana Republic site. We've got a mosquito here. Mosquitoes in this building? Okay. So if you look at on an Android, you can see the buttons are a bit small. The images are a bit smaller. You can see the buttons at the bottom are different. For some reason, these idiots have gone and they're using the iOS buttons on Android. Anyway, so that's one you can tell is hybrid done poorly. But you can have them where they're done well, you know. One of the guys in our office encourages everyone to log every beer they drink. I think he has a problem. Anyway. So there's two kinds of developers, those developing native apps and those that wish they were. That's my theory anyway. So with your native apps, are you entertaining going Xamarin? You're going native all the way, the whole way. So you've got 3 teams. And is that working fine? Working great. Okay, cool. So I am going to, I'm going to move along. And I want to just talk to you about REST APIs. Well, most companies now are giving out beautiful REST APIs for developers to consume, or even if it's internal or external. So if I was to give you a quick example, So we have a timesheeting application. It's called SSW Time Pro. So I'll just okay, so it's just a timesheeting application, and like most of these, if you go to windows.com, if you want to know all the developer tools for Windows now, it's dev.windows.com. If you want to know all the stuff for the new Office stuff, it's dev.office.com. dev.twitter.com. Some are a little different. So for this, if I was to go onto, I'll just show you. This is the typical way that documentation is generated. How do you guys generate all your documentation? Swagger, great. And you do that for all teams? All teams do Swagger. Great. So I'll just show you Swagger. So this, basically the URL for Swagger usually is Swagger, and most have, that's kind of becoming the accepted standard that you can go to URL and type /Swagger. And I'll just come onto here and just give you an example. I'll just scroll down to products. What have I got here? SKUs. We'll click on SKUs. I'll type get a list. Let's try that out, see what's there. That's getting a good list of products. And there they all are. Okay. Now, this is a very nice instant UI. You can grab that, and you can come over here, and how many people have used Postman? Okay, almost everyone. So how many people have used Postman 2? The new guy, just a couple. Okay. So they've got a new UI. I'll just kill those, start from scratch. But we have these collections now, so you can add a new collection. Oh, sorry, I'll import the existing one in. So you can come in here, this import, and you can download from a link. You'll see it says I support RAML, Waddle, and Swagger. Well, Swagger is obviously the cool stuff. So you click that, you type that. When I press import, look over here on the left, you'll see it pulled it over. And then it says work. And then you press import again, and you get another one. And then you press import again, and you get another one. You keep pressing import because the dialog never closes. Okay, so you come here. You can look down here, and you can see. I'll just try to go to something where they've got no filtering. Unbelievable. But you can just find, where is? I can search. Oh, sorry, I can. You're right. Thank you. So I can get a list of SKUs by type, and then I can, give the type. But that's just a REST URL. But you could, I think I could. Oh, look, I can do lots of cool things, and I could give some OData stuff, order by. Sell amount. See if that works. But yeah, so you can, defaults to raw. But yes, so you've got that. And so I obviously, if I wanted something else, I could type DESC. And so you've got this beautiful OData query syntax that you can tack on the end. So that's why kind of this is useful as well as Swagger. I'll click on pretty just to check. So sell amount. There it is, yep. Okay, cool. Okay, seems to have worked. And so that's Postman. That's the new version of Postman. All right. I'll just tell you a whole lot of series of URLs. Basically, you've got developers.google, developers.facebook, dev.twitter, dev.telstra now, where you can send a whole lot of SMSs for free. That was done by Frank Arrigo, the guy that was running Microsoft Developer Evangelist Division. developer.nokia, developer.github, and developer.xamarin. Everyone's doing it. I wish there was one standard, but it seems to be dev. To a degree, or developer. All right. So I'll just fly through that because you guys are all pretty familiar with that. Are your REST APIs public for other people to consume? Yep. And what is the URL?
It's not dev or something.
It's not, but what is it? smh.domain. Nobody knows?
We've got lots, a lot of different microservices. Each of them usually has the feature -api.domain.eu.
Can I get to it?
Yeah, if you go
SMH?
no, just do email-api.
Email-api.domain.eu. Email-api. Yep.
.domain.com.au.
Slash what?
Swagger.
Oh, slash Swagger. Okay. Cool. Okay. All right. That's great. You probably need to have one overarching one, which is dev. Which you do have one, but you don't know what it is.
Do we have the docs?
Oh, you don't have one. Oh, there's one to add to the to-do list. Well, some that lists off some way of getting there instead of knowing email-API. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So, all right, it's good that you guys are all doing that. Are you guys doing any WCF anymore, or you're doing everything web API? Yep, great to hear. All right, so there's some nostalgia. Okay, so all right. The cool way is to generally you have an opening page as well that has a little video that quickly talks you through all the different REST APIs that developers can consume. All right, so you know about Swagger, you know it's like Mick Jagger, and I've heard that song too many times. All right, so we need an end Swagger. If you do it in Visual Studio, it's Swashbuckle. Is that what you're using? Okay, all right, awesome. Great, so let's talk about ASP.NET V Next. Now that, there's a lot of new stuff here. So the first thing to talk about is there is a whole lot of developers out there that don't work at a rich organization like you guys, and they have to get by on free tools, like real dodgy tools, like Vim and things like that. And then there's you guys. So Microsoft, the history of that is they released this thing called Express. And I think it's fair to say Express was not very successful, right? Well, I guess we say not successful, but they did manage to download many millions of copies of it. So I guess that's not fair to say it was totally unsuccessful, but it certainly didn't get traction in my world. It was a very limited version of Professional, and it had no licensing restrictions for applications, but it had no extensions, no ReSharper, no Web Essentials, no nothing. It was really painful. In fact, they should have called it, instead of Visual Studio Express, they should have called it Visual Studio Crippled. Now, I think there was a few other problems too, that you had different versions to install, which was pretty horrible. You had to decide, did you want the web version or the Windows version or the desktop version? And these people that were going to take it, I don't think any of them ever planned on starting to pay for Visual Studio. And so there's lots of cheaper options in there. And JetBrains kind of started taking off. Sublime took off, Atom.io took off, and Notepad++ took off. And no, Vim didn't take off.
20 years ago.
Yes. The very, very, very old people use Vim. Okay, but these are like the popular ones that have taken off. Okay, and hipsters, the odd hipster here and there. So, this is a picture from my pool room table. That's Scott Guthrie. And then he did this blog post and he said, Visual Studio is universally praised, but if you talk to a developer in college, Australia College, they don't want to pay, so we want to eliminate that friction and enable developers to use it on a day-to-day basis. And with that blog post, he announced, he didn't say this, but he essentially said Good Night Express and Hello Community Edition. The Community Edition was the first time they released a decent free IDE, and it had extensions. And any developer could use it to create a paid application. In addition, rich companies could use it for free as well if they were doing open source stuff or if they were doing academic research or learning and things like that. So the good thing about why this is getting popular and why I'm bringing this up, even when it's for you guys, licensing isn't a big issue, is because when you start seeing this version get traction in 2015, I'll tell you why I think it will get quite a bit of traction. But since they've open sourced .NET, and they're bringing all these other tools in like Bower and NPM and tools that the non-Microsoft developers, that Microsoft developers had never heard of. Like Microsoft developers don't generally start using all these other tools everyone else is using, but that's going to change in this version. So now you'll see that we've got great extensions that those freebie guys will start using. They'll start using Web Essentials. They'll start using Package Intellitrace for NPM. They'll start using Grunt Launcher, PHP tools, Python tools. There's the free version of Xamarin. They'll all start using this and they'll start building extra extensions. And I think the ecosystem will get stronger when you have lots of people from the other world starting to use a good free IDE, and it's not for everyone, but if I'm kind of trying to break it down into what I think, this is just my little predictions. You've got all the HTML and JavaScript developers out there. Typically, they don't use Visual Studio today. They don't need such a big, heavy tool. You've got Node devs, PHP devs, Python devs, non-Windows devs, Visual Studio devs, and administrators. I'm sure there's lots more, but they're the ones I can think of. Which ones of those will Microsoft get in this version? Now there's a free tool, they don't have to pay. Well, this is my prediction. I think HTML and JavaScript devs will jump on the bandwagon, and I think I'm not saying all of them, but a good chunk of them will start doing it because, first of all, it's free. Secondly, it's a rich environment. Thirdly, it's got Bower support and NPM support and things like that. Node devs, well, they're a niche. Many of them will move. They will like a lot of the NPM package support and stuff. And in addition, there's a code tool. So there is a code tool called code.visualstudio.com. Are you familiar with this? Oh, you're not? Okay. I'll quickly tell you. I don't want to. So Microsoft released this brand new tool, and it's not dissimilar to Vim, but better. And it has the worst name in history. It's called Code. And even if you search for the Code tool, the Code Microsoft tool, I don't even think you can find it in any type of Google search. It is one of the craziest names they've ever named something. So the only way of ever knowing about this tool is to go code.visualstudio.com. If you know the exact URL, they don't want everyone to be able to use this tool. Okay, so here it is, and it is just a little, I'll just try to play this just to give you a very quick look. And
Hi, my name's Krista.
That is an awesome connection we have.
Nice. I'm a program manager in the visual.
Okay, we won't be watching that, but had you watched that, you would see how performant it was, unlike this site. And it is just a text editor like this. There is no dialog boxes coming up. Everything is command line. So we'll talk about that in a little while. But I think that particular tool will be the tool that a chunk of Node developers take. The ones that want a richer environment will definitely, the humps have been removed for trying out Visual Studio. PHP developers, well, I don't think they're going to move personally. I'll be very shocked if they move. They would never even consider waiting 3 hours to download and install Visual Studio. But stranger things have happened. Python devs, I'm not sure. I think the beginner devs will switch. I think that they'll love all the Git support. I think they'll like the command line driven approach of code. I think that they'll be really happy when they see pip for packaging, and because they're never going to switch to NuGet. And I think you'll start seeing progressive universities start teaching PHP using the code tool and potentially Visual Studio. Non-Windows devs, well, they've got that code tool, okay? They've got OmniSharp, but there's no Visual Studio rich IDE for that. Visual Studio developers, well, I will say that the average web developer in the Visual Studio ecosystem now will be shocked. They'll be shocked how much change there is. They'll be annoyed that there's so many things seem to have changed. All their cheese has moved all at once. They'll be very unhappy, probably because they need to learn a lot. They still need to install Visual Studio on the build server. They will feel that Visual Studio has become kind of complex. But they have nowhere to go, so they'll just deal with it and grow. And the reason that in the end they'll be happy is because they will have a wider set of tools to use, okay? And they will essentially be a lot better at dealing with other non-Windows developers. Administrators, well, they'll just be happy because they can run ASP on Linux because they've been wanting to do that for a long time. And today it does run on Mono, but tomorrow they'll have this super fast .NET Core, which we'll talk about in a sec, and that will make them happy. So there's lots of people going to be happy, some people won't be happy. So in conclusion, with just all that free stuff they're doing, you'll see a new open source .NET Core plus a free Visual Studio Community Edition gives you a hell of a lot of potential unlocked. You can do odd things like this. Develop a self-contained website for free, Docker deploy it over to an IoT device like a Raspberry Pi, and the Raspberry Pi could be running Windows 10 or running Linux, and you're still a Microsoft developer doing all that stuff. So it's interesting scenarios that we'll see where that takes us. All right, any questions on all that stuff before I move on? Just the free stuff. Good, let's move on. ASP.NET 5. We used to call it vNext, we don't call it that. Now, when I did this back in 2013 at TechEd, at that point in time, I was recommending that everyone move to MVC4. They use Web API, TypeScript, and Knockout, okay? Obviously, since there, we've had MVC5, and now we've got MVC6. So, this is what happens now. We go web application, press OK. We click on website now, we press OK. And the first thing you'll notice is everything is a NuGet package. Everything is a NuGet package. All these NuGet packages for all the stuff that was not a NuGet package before. You'll see this list here of NuGet packages. And you'll see that we've got two .NET frameworks essentially. So we're now, we've never seen two of these listed before. So we're now compiling against two different .NET versions. The first one, .NET 4.51, is the one that we've always known, and it's the rich thing. It's basically it's Windows only. It's got everything that we've ever had before, so it'll be the least change. The DNX Core 5 is a lighter weight version, so it's missing things, but that's the one that runs on Linux and other OSs. So I think the other big thing you'll notice is there's a big change of attitude from Microsoft. So in the old days, when there was NUnit and Microsoft needed a unit testing framework, they went and wrote MS Test. I'm not sure why, maybe because they wanted to change a few attributes around or something, but there wasn't a strong purpose for doing that. They could have invested those resources into making NUnit better. So now, instead of go and look at all these cool tools out there, now they want you to learn things like Bower, Grunt, NPM, and Owin. Unfortunately, Owin doesn't have a cool logo, but all the others do. Okay, so that's just an example, and we'll talk about these now. How many people are familiar with all those four? Okay, a couple. Okay, just two. So the rest of you, as .NET developers, you will be very familiar with this very soon. Okay, let's talk about that. So these two .NET frameworks you're targeting, that will be your you'll probably just start working with that. And I will, all right, I'll come back to it in a sec. But the DNX Core 5 is a cross-platform library. So, and 4.51 is the full .NET framework that has all APIs that you will need. All right. So you can change which one you want to target in this properties. So you can go into your properties and say, look, I want to target this specific .NET version if you want. The other big thing you'll see is there's no csproj. So that csproj file, in fact, by eliminating this, Microsoft have probably eliminated your biggest pain point. You know when you're adding all files all the time and you always have that the merging? Do you have this problem as well? No. Okay. Well, basically, you're always including files and it's all in csproj and we get conflicts and it's very painful. It's the only painful thing of Visual Studio. Okay. So that's kind of eliminated. By putting files there, they're just there. So you basically exclude. So there's no more web.config and no more packages.config. We have packages.json. XML files are passe. JSON's the cool hipster way of doing it. Is that right? Yeah, you were cool years before, right? Yeah. Well, we only just got cool, but that's okay. I have a selfie stick as well. No? Oh, hasn't it? Okay. All right. So project.json, this is how you add NuGet references. In fact, it has IntelliSense, and this is kind of how you do it. To add a NuGet reference, you come in here and you type elma dot whatever, it pops up the version numbers, and then it goes and downloads the package and plonks it in your folder. Now, Microsoft developers kind of have a hard time with this because we're used to dialogues popping up for things like this. So you don't have to worry. You can still come in here and go manage NuGet packages and go and add it manually. Sorry, we call this manual, but you would call this, what do you call this? You're not used to these things. No. Yeah, overly complicated UI that allows you to point and click what you want. And this is Cortana enabled, so you don't have to actually type anything. Just joking, don't worry. Anyway, so this NuGet package manager, well, it looks nicer, I think. And the good thing is when you go and add that, it goes and adds it. Now web.config, good night to web.config. And now we just have this config.json. It's amazing, so simple. So the best UI front-end library is what? So in our world, where we're going to companies all the time and going file a new project and starting from scratch, Bootstrap is really important for us. In fact, there's a series of developers at our company, kind of some of the most senior guys. They won't let you on the project unless you know Bootstrap well. And I always think that's weird because they don't care about UI. And they make that big deal about that. And so I asked Mark, why do you make a big deal about making sure the developer knows Bootstrap before you let him on the team? He goes, because I don't like talking to clients about UI. And if it's in Bootstrap, I don't have to talk about that stuff. I can just talk about everything else. So anyway, there's things like Foundation. Now that's kind of a good UI library as well, but it was never up to date. So every time that you were, when you were, it was always out of date in NuGet. So it was a problem. So people would have to go to GitHub, download it there, and it was just a manual process. So Microsoft fixed this how? They fixed this problem. So we have all these problems with NuGet, not up to date, people downloading it from NuGet, from GitHub, and the tooling wasn't good enough. So enter Bower. So you won't go to NuGet anymore to go and grab UI libraries. I know we kind of think this is a big deal, but it's because we don't go to NuGet. Which ones are moved out of NuGet, which ones haven't? So that's kind of be initially confusing. So just be grateful Microsoft didn't make their own Bower, because that's what normally would happen. So it's a front end thing. It comes from Twitter, and it's just a bower.json. Unfortunately, at this point in time, there is no GUI dialog, or you might say that's an advantage. We have to go in and just type it like I've just typed it before, and it will go and grab it. So for example, if you want moment.js, don't go to NuGet. The new way is you won't see things like a moment there, you'll see. You'll still use NuGet for Microsoft Visual Studio packages type thing. Okay, good. That's going to be Bower now. We just need a UI. So you'll come in here and you'll type moment, and that will pop open. You'll choose a version. The only thing I can think of that's different, in the old days, we could go to NuGet and see all the packages that are out of date, and then grab all the updates, right? Did you guys do that? Did you? Grab all the packages in one go? All the updates? All right. Well, I wouldn't recommend that. But the only thing that this doesn't have is it doesn't show you which ones are out of date. Anyway, so that's that. Packages.json. All right. So packages.json is a list of NPM modules, and these came from the Node guys. In fact, when you think about it, it's kind of interesting how the history of this has evolved. If you think about Visual Studio, that was released in 2001. Let's say 2002, because that's when we got a non-beta version. And when did we get NuGet? 2010. So 8 years it took us to get that. If you think about Ruby, Ruby was released in 2005, and they had this thing called Ruby Gems. And Ruby Gems was released in 2003, so that's 8 years as well. So it took a long time for them to get their own package manager. And then we had Node, and that was released in 2009, I think. Yep. And they got their Node package manager in 2009. So they didn't stuff around waiting for a long time for a package manager. So they've basically, from the beginning, had a package manager straight away. And then we end up with Bower and Yeoman and Grunt and Gulp and all these things. But all these packages that were out in the non-Microsoft world are now in our world. All right, so we've got NPM. It's a JavaScript package manager. It's got lots of tasks in that you can go and get. So as an example, I should tell you a story in Brisbane. We have a team up in Brisbane, and this is only from a week or so ago. Our devs want to use Visual Studio 2015, all right? And since we're the lead guys on the project, and their guys aren't very senior, they're wanting to get mentored, I guess, our guys said, all right, let's use 2015. And so we got them all running on that, and it converted pretty easily, and they're up and running, and they kind of helped them get over their first couple of weeks, and we left them. And then they go and add a very simple task. They added an extra class in their CSS or something. Well, the less file didn't convert it to CSS, and they go, what's going on? Our project's broken. The two of you guys left, and now our project's broken. And we kind of talk them over the phone what they need to do. Well, you need to learn. You need to go and see you add this gulp file, and you'll see this gulp file, and you need to go to npm, and you need to download this, and you need to go see here. You'll need to look at well, what would you need? You'd need npm, and you'd need less and CSS. You need to Google for something like that. You need to find a package in there. Here's the package. This package is called gulp.less. Now, when you find this package, just check that lots of people are using it. Look at this. 9,000 downloads yesterday. It's kind of insane. That's a lot, isn't it? But anyway, so you find this. That's the one you need. You now need to go and add that thing into your gulp file. Well, the client, the devs at the client go, what the hell, this is too bad. We're rolling back to Visual Studio 2013. There's too much to learn. This is crazy. We can't learn all this, So there is a hump that you have to kind of get yourself over. I don't think it's very insurmountable well, obviously not for you guys, but I'm thinking little baby shops with a couple of guys. It's kind of freaky when it feels like endless. Anyway, so that is that. So the next thing is the grunt file. So you have a grunt file, or you have a gulp file. So this is a JavaScript task runner, and I guess you guys will need to make the decision. Are you going to use Grunt, or are you guys going to use Gulp? So our experience was going with Grunt first, and Grunt is like configuration based, and basically it always writes to disk all the time. So on a large project, it gets slower because it's writing, and I think our devs preferred the flexibility of just the code-based approach, so we're going with Gulp now. So this was the thing that really upset the client when they found this out. Web Essentials has removed bundling, minification, and image sprite. If you want any of this, like you want to support less, go and use Grunt and Gulp. That's kind of confronting to read that on the tool that solved all the problems. Okay. Anyway, I'll be surprised if Mads, who wrote that, doesn't change his mind. I'll be surprised. But anyway, we'll see what happens. So instead, use the task runner Gulp.js. So we now need a build process for our front ends, not just our back ends. And this is the difference. So you'll choose a stream-based, or you'll use Grunt. So I think, you know, I'll be interested to see how you guys end up. But I think the majority of the industry will be on Gulp. That's what I think. All right. Visual Studio Task Runner is the next thing, just like a UI for running the Gulp file. And you can turn away. You don't have to look at this. It's voluntary. Okay. So we have this, and we click on this, and we click Build, and it will run. And we also can set up so every time we go Build, these run, and they generate your CSS files and things like that. All right, so that's how you use that. What do you think of that? Pretty sexy? Okay. So I just want to give you a quick warning. In the RC, this happened. So you have this lib folder, but when you go build, after you've gone file new project and you go build, this lib folder disappeared. You go, what the hell? What's going on there? So if you click on that, you'll see bye-bye, it's gone. So the fix is to go to the Gulp file, go to the Task Runner Explorer, go in here, copy bindings, and then tick that on. So it builds after build. Now, yeah, well, obviously it wasn't very well tested for that to get through, but that's just explained to you, well, something's not there, it's not being built. So it's either, well, in this case, this is going to be what runs on the build. So, this is how we did things before with bundling and minification. So you would have these grunt files in 2015. So that's kind of the newer approach. So if you remember, these bundle.configs, and now we have, we put this in, and we get this usually from the website that I just went to. So when you come here, you'll see you've got the sample code, but in the end you seem to have to change it every time anyway, so it's not going to be as instant as we might be used to. Okay, so what goes where? Well, we've got NuGet dependencies, we've got Bower for front-end dependencies, we've got NPM for back-end JavaScript tools, and we've got Grunt and Gulp, or Grunt or Gulp, and that's kind of MS Build on the client side. The other thing to tell you about is www-root. And www-root is a new thing that enables the new .NET framework will run your sites faster than before. It's like a Tesla, I guess, for your website, okay? And the reason for that is a lot of the files don't need to go through your ASP.NET pipeline. So those files you put in your www-root, and they skip going through the ASP.NET pipeline. So I'll just, so static files go there, it maps to your host name, you take out all the files you're not working with, but to make all that happen you need your Gulp file. So TypeScript less and stuff should not be put there because those type of files generate the final products. So you guys will probably have a discussion internally. Are we going to support, are we going to check in www root or not? You know, some teams will decide not to, some will decide to, some teams will decide to check in small portions of it. Okay, do you guys know how you're going to lean towards dealing with www root?
Yeah, we've already started checking in the build.
Right,
The build files.
everything in w root?
Yeah, well, it's not in that folder in particular.
Right.
We have
Okay.
a build
Okay.
folder.
All right, cool. A lot of people think generated files that are generated, you shouldn't check in. Some people think, no, I want it all.
There's bugs that could appear like slightly different build setups.
Yes, there are. Yes, so there is the chance. Dependency injection. You guys using dependency injection for everything?
Well, yeah,
So you're using AutoFac?
not everywhere, but well, some teams
What-
are using
what-
different frameworks.
What's the other ones?
You guys
Any-
using something different from search, aren't you?
No? Castle, Windsor. Right, so you don't have a common one that you use across the board?
It's mostly AutoFac now.
AutoFac. Okay. Oh, cool. All right. AutoFac. That's great. And it's Aussie. Yeah. Great. Awesome. So it's built in. Startup CS uses it. So it's just in the box now. So you don't need AutoFac anymore. You can delete it all. All right. It's all gone. If you want. So you can use what's in the box, or you can play nicely with whichever one you use. So today we use AutoFac a lot, and we use this Data Onion, which generates our repositories. It's a free tool. You can use it if you want, but that's kind of how we do it today. So you can dependency inject into Razor. This is just another nice little way of using dependency injection. So you'll see you inject that in. Alrighty. So I want to fit in one little hot tool, but let me just finish just telling you a couple more changes on this. So the web API and controllers are all one. So that's another change you'll notice. And MVC partials. At the moment, there's some problems with that, and that's kind of fixed. So you get this messy type of code where you say is authenticated and you have like one conditional piece of HTML versus another. It's very hard to unit test, pretty hard to test that at all. So the way that people have been trying to fix it today is put the logic in a controller. And so they come through here and they'll create an action on the controller, and then they'll have something like the below, okay, rendered out. So that makes your controllers fat and your component is not separate. And so what Microsoft have done is release this new thing called view components. So they're similar to partial views. They're like a mini controller, and they can solve lots of those little pieces of fragments of HTML on a web page. So things like login panels or dynamic menus, tagged clouds, shopping carts, that type of stuff. So this is how it kind of works. You have this view components, and it's just, I guess, like a mini controller. They have one method, invoke, and they will then call the appropriate piece of HTML. So that's kind of how that works. And now you've got your logic in a component that can be tested, and it's nice and separated. Who likes that? Who thinks that they would use that? Reminds you of what? Page load. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yeah. All right. So I want to show you my last little thing, if I can fit it in very quickly. I think this is one of the coolest things I've seen out of Microsoft for a while. Power BI. Anyone looked at Power BI? Do yourself a favor and go to powerbi.com. This is one of it's just hot out of the oven, so it's very raw, but it's one of the best things I've seen that Microsoft have come out of. It's a great BI story. And essentially, you click on this link up here, Get Data. It will go off and get the data from many different pre-generated sources. And there's Salesforce connectors, there's heaps of these connectors. It gives all these beautiful maps and visualizations. They've got one in there for visualstudio.com, and you connect on and you can see all your projects. You can write natural language queries at the top. You can just write a query. Let me just see, what have I got there? Sales by city, or which developer has written the most bugs? Or how many check-ins on Sugar Learning descending? And you just write English, and it seems to just magically work it out. And as you're typing, you'll get a grid or a chart. It's I wish I could work out exactly what style it's using, but they want it to be able to get any knowledge worker's question out and data to come out. It's pretty incredible. I'm kind of in love with it, and it's fun. So anyway, you can see all these cool things. All change sets in December 2007. Changed it, yeah. It's just fun, just trying, seeing what it finds all the time. And then you can grab these little widgets, and the plan is, I believe, you'll be able to embed these. Currently, you can just click on it and you embed it in the dashboard. But you'll be able to, you know how like you can get a YouTube video and get the embed code and embed it in your page? You'll be able to do this, and it's going to be so cool. I just think it's great that Microsoft came out with this. All right, so the final things is bad smells in your code. This is an area that is not sorted. That's a terrible picture, I know. So this state is not defined. It is not resolved. It's still being investigated. Obviously, in the middle tier, we're good with unit tests, like automated UI testing. Kind of code UI tests are popular with Windows Forms developers and rich type of things. They're pretty nasty on the web. Selenium is popular. Lots of .NET developers like, I believe that says chutzpah. You delete the C and you say chutzpah. Pretty cool name, hey? Whatever that means. And JavaScript. This is all being sorted out. There's no clear leader at the moment. But I think you want to be investing in this area because we're putting more and more of our logic in the UI. So, you know, with Angular and the controller being there and lots more logic that used to be on the server, we've got to come out with a nice one. So we like chutzpah in the company, except, you know, that's kind of very Visual Studio specific, which isn't going to be probably long lasting, but it's a great way to get up and running. So you can put some tests in here for calculations. You go into a NuGet, you grab chutzpah, you run your tests, and you get your tests coming out. So it's kind of nice. But you'll also notice XUnit is a first-class citizen in 2015. All right. So at this point in time, I'm recommending, well, this is what I recommended before, but Knockout's been gone. And it's all, we're doing everything with Angular and TypeScript. We don't do anything without TypeScript in our company. And I think SPAs are the way to go for, especially most greenfield projects. I think you should be using App Insights or, you know, New Relic to be tracking because it makes your sprint reviews more mature. I'm a fan of Xamarin Forms for cross-platform stuff. Continuous deployment to Azure is pretty important. Now we've got testing in production. It's a major feature developers will want. And the testing part, well, that's the area that I hope to get solidified. But at this point in time, it's Selenium, and for JavaScript, Jasmine, and chutzpah for most of our teams. So hopefully you enjoyed that. We went through a trip down memory lane in the beginning. We talked about what's new in 2014 and 2015. We talked about a bit of mobile development with Cordova. We also went through what's new in ASP.NET 5, and yeah, it's good. Last two things I'll tell you about. You're welcome to email me or tweet me. I will answer your questions if you put a good subject and say I attended the Visual Studio domain. And check out Channel 9. Channel 9 has miles of this video. We also have tv.ssw. and tweet your favourite feature. Thank you. All right. Did you get all that? We'll take the SSW TV quiz and test your knowledge now.